Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, Anthropic shatters the trillion-dollar ceiling. NVIDIA wants to strap an AI data center to your house, and the real reason behind the biggest CEO ouster in tech history finally comes out.
I mean, it is just an absolutely massive day on the wire.
It really is. So I am so glad you could join us for this deep dive. If you're listening, we have just a massive stack of raw signals coming straight off the digital wire today. We're talking everything from, highly volatile market movements to some deeply strange cultural shifts.
Yeah, the cultural stuff today is, it's pretty out there.
Oh, for sure. But our mission here is to synthesize all of this noise into what actually matters for you, for your portfolio, your career trajectory, and really just your perspective on where this whole economy is heading right now.
And we really need to start with the hard news, because the financial scale we're looking at today is just, it's breaking historical models entirely.
Totally. I mean, look at this report from at Copy-Letter. Anthropic's pre-IPO valuation just surged to a record $1.2 trillion.
Right. But we really need to unpack the actual reality of that number, because taking that $1.2 trillion at face value is, frankly, incredibly dangerous for anyone managing a portfolio right now.
Yeah, that figure represents a 900% jump just since October 2025.
Exactly. But the mechanism of how we arrived at $1.2 trillion is what you really have to scrutinize here, because this valuation is coming from on-chain trading on Jupiter.
Right. And just for anyone listening who isn't, spending their days deep in decentralized finance, Jupiter is an exchange built on the Solana blockchain.
Precisely. It's crypto. And what's being traded there isn't traditional SEC-registered corporate equity. Like, institutional investors aren't building a billion-dollar IPO book here.
Just basically retail traders, right?
Yeah, retail traders swapping proxy tokens that represent locked pre-IPO shares. And this is a crucial distinction. It's a brilliant mechanism for capturing raw, unfiltered market sentiment. But the liquidity is paper-thin.
Paper-thin, meaning it wouldn't take much to crash it.
Exactly. $1 trillion proxy valuation sounds world-changing. But when the liquidity pool is that shallow, I mean, a relatively small amount of sell pressure could collapse that price point overnight. It is basically a sentiment mirage.
Wow. But, the FOMO driving that sentiment is very real, though.
Yeah.
You have venture guys at Sporadika openly kicking themselves on X today.
Oh, yeah, I saw that thread. It's brutal.
It is. He's talking about how he passed on an SBV investment when Anthropic was at a mere $45 billion valuation just 14 months ago.
Which, I mean, let's clarify that mechanism, too.
Yeah.
An SPV, a special purpose vehicle, is essentially a pop-up shell company, right?
Right. A group of investors pools their money into this single entity for the sole purpose of buying a block of private shares before a company goes public. And he just passed on it.
And now he is actively watching a 900% missed return in real time.
Yeah, the cultural hype is so intense that TrunkFan posted a satirical scoop claiming the CEO of McDonald's is resigning to join Anthropic as kitchen staff just to get equity.
Which is hilarious, but, satire usually highlights the underlying anxiety of a market. People are just terrified of missing out on the foundational wealth generation of this decade.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone wants in.
But I'd argue that the fear is completely blinding them to the operational realities. You have a $1.2 trillion token valuation, but look at the actual product constraints.
Okay, well, let me push back on the product constraint narrative for a second. Because the users are seeing something different. Kim has pointed out today that Anthropic is actively doubling their Claude code rate limits for max-tier users.
Right, in a specific 5-hour window.
Yeah, in a 5-hour window at no extra charge. So if they're freely doubling capacity for heavy enterprise developers, doesn't that strongly imply they have the physical compute infrastructure to justify this massive hype cycle?
You'd think so, but you have to read the fine print on that announcement, because it actually proves the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Yes, they doubled the processing limit within a specific window. But if you look at the back-end documentation, the total weekly capacity for those users isn't changing by a single token.
Oh, wow. So they aren't granting more overall compute power.
Not at all. They are simply allowing enterprise developers to burn through their existing weekly allowances faster. The fundamental compute cap is rigidly fixed.
Wow, that changes the whole perspective.
Right. So you have to ask yourself, is a $1.2 trillion valuation sustainable when the company literally cannot afford to give its highest paying users more total capacity?
Man. And that structural ceiling really explains a massive pivot we are seeing in the traditional equity markets right now.
Oh, the flight to hard assets.
Exactly. If you're an investor looking at AI startups burning billions on compute they can't even scale, you start looking for the absolute inverse of that business model.
Which brings us to the Texas play.
Yes. At Shiri_she was asked to name a growth stock for the next 12 months that acts like SanDisk did during the early tech booms, like a foundational play. Her answer was TPL, Texas Pacific Land Corporation.
And that is such a brilliant indicator of where sophisticated money is hiding right now.
For sure. I mean, they are an energy land royalty company in the Permian Basin.
But they don't actually do anything physical, right?
No, they don't drill for oil. They don't lay pipelines. They don't build water treatment plants. They simply own the mineral and surface rights to a massive chunk of Texas, and they collect a royalty on literally everything extracted or built on it.
It's genius. They operate with essentially zero capital expenditure.
It is the ultimate hedge. You take your highly volatile, capital-burning AI tokens, and you balance them with a company that just sits on dirt and collects high-margin cash flow.
And honestly, that pivot from...
Yeah, the tension between the narrative these companies sell and the reality they operate in is fracturing everywhere. I mean, we're talking about financial mirages, but let's look at the corporate governance mirage.
Oh, this is my favorite story of the day.
It's wild. Gary Marcus highlighted Mira Murati's recent trial testimony in the ongoing Musk versus OpenAI litigation, and it completely detonates the mythological history of last year's biggest tech drama.
It really does. I mean, we were all told Sam Altman's temporary firing back in late 2023 was about AI safety.
Right.
All right.
About what Ilya saw and the existential threat of artificial general intelligence, like escaping the lab.
But the existential risk narrative was just a highly convenient smokescreen. It sounds much better to tell the public, hey, we're fighting over the fate of humanity, than to admit the reality.
And the testimony confirms the reality was pure textbook C-suite backstabbing. The board fired him because of trustworthiness.
Simply that.
Yeah, he was actively misleading Murati on safety reviews just to push products out faster, pitting executives against each other in private meetings and systematically undermining the CTO.
It was a standard corporate power struggle draped in the holy robes of saving the world. It's so typical.
The irony is staggering. The entire tech ecosystem spent months, fiercely debating the philosophical implications of a rogue superintelligence.
While completely ignoring the actual threats that could freeze the industry tomorrow.
Exactly. The danger isn't the algorithm deciding to turn us into paperclips. The danger is a boardroom of deeply flawed humans mismanaging a technology that is rapidly hitting the limits of the physical power grid.
And speaking of hitting the limits of the power grid, that leads directly to the most fascinating and frankly dystopian development on the wire today.
Oh man, the housing thing.
Yeah. If you can't build massive centralized data centers fast enough because the grid can't handle them, you decentralize them. At Polymarket shared news that NVIDIA is partnering with Pulta Group, one of the largest home builders in the U.S.
It was started called Span.
Right. Yes, Span. They're planning to install mini AI data centers on the exterior walls of new U.S. homes.
That is just insane to me.
The mechanical logic behind it is basically a desperate attempt to bypass commercial zoning and industrial grid bottlenecks. Span manufactures these smart electrical panels for residential homes.
Okay, so how does it actually work in practice?
So the system is designed to monitor a home's energy usage, right? And when there is excess capacity, say your solar panels are generating peak power at noon, but your air conditioning is off, the Span panel routes that excess electricity directly to a rack of 16 liquid-cooled Blackwell GPUs bolted right next to your HVAC unit.
You're taking the industrial friction of the AI revolution and literally forcing it into a suburban cul-de-sac.
It's wild. But you have to consider the second-order physical effects here, like who is responsible for the maintenance when a high-pressure liquid cooling line ruptures on someone's driveway?
Good question. Probably the homeowner, knowing these contracts.
Right. Or what happens to the local neighborhood transformer when 30 of these distributed residential server racks spin up simultaneously to process a training run during, a summer heat wave?
The pushback against this kind of infrastructure footprint is growing rapidly, but the arguments are incredibly misaligned. Look at the Prebichen's take today.
What's his angle?
He argues that the environmental critics of AI are completely missing the target by obsessing over water usage. People picture data centers draining reservoirs, but he points out that the water usage of all data centers combined is roughly equivalent to irrigating just 10 acres of commercial corn.
Huh. I mean, 10 acres is a rounding error in agricultural terms.
Exactly. So his point is the water argument is an emotional distraction. The actual constraint is noise and electricity.
Which goes right back to the houses. If you accept his premise that noise and power are the real threats, then this NVIDIA residential plan is absolute madness.
Complete mad.
If you strap a server farm to a Sequoia wall in Arizona, you are literally importing industrial server wine and grid instability directly into a consumer's backyard.
And people are already starting to realize this. It makes perfect sense why App Polling Market is showing a 26% probability that the entire AI bubble bursts by 2026.
Because the solution to their scaling problem is literally hiding supercomputers and housing developments. You are hitting a hard ceiling of physics.
We're definitely hitting a physical ceiling. But, while the infrastructure groans under its own weight, the human application of these tools is blowing past historical ceilings entirely.
The user side is moving incredibly fast.
It really is. Let's shift from the hardware to the humans, because we are witnessing a complete generational rewrite in real time. At OpenAI posted a celebration today for what they're calling the ChatGPT Futures Class of 2026.
Oh, the first fully AI-native college graduates.
Yes. These are 26 undergraduate students who are the first cohort to have had access to advanced large language models for their entire four-year university career, and the output is just staggering.
What kind of stuff are they doing?
Well, these undergrads used AI tools to map 1.5 million previously unknown objects in deep space. Another group developed a model to detect disaster survivors through layers of concrete debris using altered sensor data.
I mean, the scientific achievements are undeniable, but I actually find the origin story of this specific generation far more revealing.
Oh, the cheating scandal thing.
Yeah, look at the confession posted by @WillDepew, a former OpenAI engineer. He admitted that back in 2020, as a high school junior, he was secretly using a friend's API key to access GPT-3, which was strictly against the terms of service at the time, by the way.
Just to do his homework, right?
Exactly, just to cheat on his daily U.S. history homework.
The contrast there is incredible. The ultimate academic cheat code for a teenager in 2020 just became the ultimate scientific instrument for an undergrad in 2026.
And the arc of that technology is what truly matters here. We went from underground, illicit homework automation to institutionalized Nobel-caliber data analysis in the span of a single college cycle.
It's moving so fast.
It fundamentally collapses the resource gap. Think about it. 5 years ago, mapping 1.5 million space objects required an established physicist, a team of grad students, millions in institutional grants, and highly contested access to an orbital telescope.
And today?
Today, it requires a motivated 20-year-old and $20 a month for an API key.
But that collapse of the resource gap isn't confined to academia. The commercial application is arguably moving even faster, and it is ruthless.
Oh, the commercial side is terrifying for a lot of people.
Seriously. At Sci announced the launch of their image generation quality mode available via their API. They have already generated over 300 million images on Grok.
300 million? That's absurd.
Right. But the critical detail here is the target audience. They aren't pitching this to kids making internet memes anymore. The explicit marketing is aimed at business professionals for complex, multilingual text rendering and photorealistic product assets.
And this is the harsh economic reality of democratization. Like, we celebrate the undergrad mapping the stars, but we have to acknowledge the immediate displacement in the commercial sector.
The job losses, basically.
Right. When an application interface can generate a flawlessly lit, localized, photorealistic image of a product in 50 different environments in seconds, entire professional workflows just evaporate overnight.
It is the outright replacement of commercial photography. An ad agency no longer needs to hire a photographer, a lighting tech, a location scout, or a set designer.
The economic efficiency is undeniable.
Yeah.
But the human cost in those creative and logistical sectors is going to be severe.
And I think the emotional whiplash of watching your industry automate in real time is creating a deep psychological strain across the workforce. People are realizing that stagnation is now a career death sentence.
Which brings up a piece of peak career survival advice that is trending today from @ReadsWithRavi.
Oh, the Gary Tan quote.
Yeah, he shared a philosophy from Gary Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator. The framework is a strict binary. Every single job must offer you either learning or earning.
It's a great framework.
It is. If you are learning highly valuable skills, you can accept lower pay. If you are earning massive capital, you can tolerate a stagnant skill set. But if you are getting neither, you have to quit immediately.
Because in a market moving at the speed of trillion-dollar token valuations and instant commercial workflow automation, sitting in a role where you aren't compounding either your knowledge or your bank account is just fatal.
It's a wrap. But observe the cultural paradox here. The faster the digital world accelerates and the more complex our tools become, the more humans are desperately seeking out rigid physical constraints.
That desire for constraint is so palpable right now. Look at DHH. He posted a video today geeking out over Palmer Luckey's Mod Retro Game Boy.
Oh, I saw that. It's beautiful.
It shows the device booting up instantly into Tetris.
Yeah.
There is zero boot sequence. There are no software updates to download. There is no cloud connectivity to fail. It is a physical cartridge that instantly turns on and delivers a perfectly constrained experience.
And I think we are experiencing profound software exhaustion. When a developer has to put a game on a physical cartridge, they are forced into rigorous pre-release perfection because they literally cannot patch it on day one.
Exactly. You can't just fix it in post.
Right. And a constrained environment offers a kind of psychological safety. We are just so tired of environments that endlessly shift beneath our feet.
I want to use an analogy to explain why that psychological exhaustion is hitting us so hard right now. At NASA, shared an incredible piece of point-of-view footage from a spacewalk outside the International Space Station today.
Okay, where are you going with this?
They quoted astronaut Reed Wiseman, who had this profound realization. He discovered that his lifelong fear of heights down here on Earth was actually just a fear of gravity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when you change the environment, when you remove the gravity in orbit, the fear of heights completely vanishes, even when you are floating 200 miles above the planet.
That is fascinating, and that concept maps perfectly onto our current technological anxiety.
Exactly. AI is the new gravity. It is this massive, unseen, fundamental force that is warping the physics of our entire economy. It is pulling down on every industry, every creative workflow, every career path.
So it's not the AI itself they fear.
Right. People aren't necessarily afraid of the technology itself. They are feeling the existential weight of that acceleration. They are terrified of the gravity.
That makes total sense.
And that is exactly why they crave the instant boot simplicity of a retro Game Boy. It's why they need the rigid clarity of Gary Tan's learn or earn binary. The environment is shifting so violently that people need a solid, constrained object to hold on to so they don't feel like they are in absolute free fall.
The need to ground ourselves is very real, but it's also worth noting that no matter how sophisticated the algorithms become, the fundamentally chaotic human element just refuses to be optimized out of existence.
Oh, the human element is undefeated. At Internet80M posted a meme today about GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen getting his personal account suspended from eBay.
Of course he did.
The underlying joke is that a billionaire CEO was allegedly trying to sell off his personal graded gaming memorabilia just to scrape together the cash to fund his unsolicited $56 billion takeover bid for the platform itself.
It is beautifully absurd.
It really is. We are building AI that can map the cosmos, but our financial markets are still driven by humans making extremely elaborate, multi-billion-dollar internet jokes.
An algorithm would never attempt a hostile takeover funded by vintage Pokemon cards.
So, taking a step back to look at the massive sweep of signals we've processed today, we have $1.2 trillion valuations built on retail sentiment and shallow liquidity.
We have executives fighting over power while disguising it as saving humanity.
We have NVIDIA literally trying to turn suburban houses into cooling racks for supercomputers.
And in the midst of this overwhelming digital acceleration, we are culturally retreating to the safety of offline, instant-on nostalgia.
It's a lot to take in. Based on all of this, where do you see us going tomorrow or near future?
Well, analyzing the trajectory of these trends, specifically the intense physical strain of decentralized infrastructure and the deep psychological exhaustion with bloated, hyper-connected software, I have a specific prediction.
Okay, let's hear it.
By the end of 2026, we're going to see a massive market premium placed entirely on unconnected offline tech. The ultimate luxury status symbol in 2 years won't be having an omniscient AI agent running your life.
What will it be?
It will be owning premium hardware that is physically incapable of connecting to the internet. Silence, friction, and constraint will become the most expensive commodities on the market.
Man, I think you are entirely right about silence becoming a luxury asset. And for you listening, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Yeah, think about this one.
We have spent this entire deep dive talking about the race to build the biggest models, scale the fastest infrastructure, and automate the most complex workflows. But what happens to the value of human inefficiency?
Good question.
If an API can instantly generate a flawless ad campaign, map the universe, and write perfect code, then frictionless becomes cheap. It becomes the baseline commodity. So my question for you is this. In 5 years, will the most highly valued premium services in our economy be the ones that proudly advertise they were built slowly, inefficiently, and with zero AI involvement?
Like an artisanal digital product.
Exactly. Are we about to see the rise of the organic, non-GMO digital experience as the ultimate sign of wealth? Think about that as you look at your own workflows. Thank you so much for joining us for the Daily Vibecasting, and we will catch you on the wire tomorrow.